No. Come on, where is it?
Dave, it's your Idaho Central app here. Any chance you're missing a debit card? Let's get that taken care of for you. With ICCU's card control, you can turn any card off with the tap of your finger.
You got it.
And back on again. Out, 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 out. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket.
It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. We're going all the way so you can score more for your trade-in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV today. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
It's time for Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny. From what's happening on the blue at Boise State to the Mountain West and beyond. The biggest storylines, the best guests, and most outlandish opinions from two dudes who eat, sleep, and breathe college football. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. You can also pick up any of Western Collective's beers or vodka seltzers at most major retailers in Idaho. Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny, featuring former Boise State quarterback and longtime coach Mike Sanford and KTIK 95.3 FM The Ticket's Johnny Mallory on Bronco Nation News.
Into episode 14, Heisman Trophy Saturday special edition of Ball Talk. John Mallory, Mike Sanford. Let's talk some Heisman Trophy. Let's talk some ceremony. Let's talk the weekend yesterday in New York City. Maybe even get into some Fiesta Bowl stuff. Appreciate you guys with us. Comment in the comment section, and let's get fired up and have some fun today, Coach.
Well, I'm fired up, man. It is a glorious day here weather-wise where I find myself here in Denver, Colorado, live from the Western Collective studios here and just outside of Boulder, Colorado. And, you know, there's a lot of buzz in both of these communities, to say the least. You know where my heart lies. You know where my attire lies. It's with my alma mater. And today's a very special day for the Boise State football program. This is a historic day. It's a day that it should be celebrated no matter the outcome. And I know that might be losers talk, but in the case of, this is not a football contest. You're not able to put the pads on and settle the score. So the votes are in the hands of the voters, and that happened long ago. And so it's really just all about realizing the significance of this moment for this university because of one incredibly special young man, and that's Ashton Jeanty. And he is my favorite Bronco that I've ever watched certainly as somebody that has consumed a lot of Boise State football in years that I wasn't affiliated with the program. He's my favorite Boise State Bronco of all time for a ton of different reasons, but just namely the way he plays the game. He is such a unique and special football player. It's why I bought this beautiful Ashton Jeanty NIL New Era ball cap a year ago. And even my Ashton Jeanty number 2 from the Blue and Orange store. The guy is absolutely worthy of all the glazing that Boise State and national pundits and scribes are throwing in his direction. He's an incredible football player. And of course, even more than that, he's an incredible young man, represents this university, represents Group of 5 football. I think he just represents the game of football so incredibly well. And it's going to be a lot of fun, Johnny.
I want to get your confidence on the people in Boulder and their level of confidence, and just kind of the CU family, which you are a part of as well, and kind of where they are today, Coach. But first, like, for me, the Heisman, like, Ashton Jeanty has already won this weekend. The gangsta, old school, showing up in his warm-ups. I know everybody's talking about it, but that was so money, he doesn't even know it. Like, that to me, like, won him the entire weekend. It's just an example of what people want college football to be like. I guarantee you, Dan Lanning's going to go up to Spencer today behind the scenes when they're all there, and he's going to say, oh, man, Ashton wearing his gear, that was sweet, man. And Spencer's going to say, that's him. That's who he is. And that's him bringing his whole team with him, bringing you, an alum and a former player and a family member, with him to this ceremony. None of those other players did that, and cool. Do what you got to do, dude. Ashton brought Bronco Nation to Times Square with him and got that. That's the only logo on that picture. I mean, that was gangsta, old school. I mean, he's won this weekend. If you voted this morning, I think he wins the Heisman. I don't think he's going to win it, but I think he's won the weekend and won the experience, Coach. The Heisman would obviously be the cherry. And you know, this fan base, they're probably never going to get over it. And I'm not going to tell another fan base how to feel. I have stuff with my teams that I will never get over either. But he's won the weekend for me already, man.
Yeah, and that's a really good take, and certainly a Boise State fan would be incredibly proud to see that, and I completely agree with it. The aspect of it, I actually don't love it. To me, I don't really care what guys wear to the day before events. Like, I think there's a little bit of an overselling of that, because, you know, these guys are also, you know, they're marketing and NIL and fashion. And this is the NFL, man. You know, if you've begun your process of being an NFL football player, you know, hopefully nobody wore the Joe Burrow arrival outfits to the stadium, because those would get a little bit weird. But what I loved about it from Ashton Jeanty's perspective is, when asked about it, he didn't get corny and cliche and, you know, I bring all my guys with me and all the stuff that everybody loves to see and watch and hear in almost like a Rudy or football movie type of a landscape. I like that he answered, I read the pamphlet for the information and they said, you know, represent your team. I'm like, that's awesome. And it shows that the dude's all about sales. Like, I think that there's an overselling of, oh my gosh, what did they wear on Friday? This isn't the Oscars, not the Academy Awards. Like,
it was badass.
The award goes to the best football player, and that's where, for me, there's no doubting that Ashton Jeanty is 100% deserving of this Heisman Trophy award for what he did on the field, not for what he wore to the Friday photo shoot. That's my take on it.
How confident is the CU family that they're going to get their second? Rest in peace, the late Rashawn Salam, their second Heisman Trophy winner in the history of that program. That's a really big deal. If you look at the company that CU will join, saying you have multiple players winning the Heisman, multiple players at different positions winning the Heisman. There are only a couple that can say they have a quarterback and a running back. I mean, are they pretty confident that Travis Hunter is going to bring this home for him tonight?
There's definitely a confidence level here. And I think that, you know, the Maxwell Award was not necessarily greeted with a skepticism or anger or vitriol. I actually brought it up yesterday on Sports Talk Radio, and I just thought that the award in general is always a unique, kind of strange quirk of college football, in the sense that I guess 3 of the last 11, I believe, did not get both the Maxwell Award and the Heisman. And so, you know, the take here from CU alums and CU fans is that the Maxwell Award goes to honor somebody who is deserving of the Heisman but won't win it. And I said, well, how's an award that is an independent award? It's not affiliated whatsoever with the Heisman Trust. How do they vote on an award for the best football player in college? And they're essentially the same awards in terms of description. There might be a little small, you know, legislative minutia difference between the two. But I thought it was a great award for Ashton Jeanty. I think the combination of the Doak Walker Award plus the Maxwell, the one for me as an alum, that I talked about yesterday at great length on the Denver Sports airwaves here. I thought that the actual Doak Walker Award winner from the school that I signed up to play for in 1999, I would not have envisioned that ever happening in my lifetime when I signed up to play at Boise State in 99, when things were very different. Very good football program, very successful program. But in terms of the national relevance, man, those early 2000s, you're scratching and clawing just to be able to get a game on TV.
You guys played a key role in all this too. You guys did,
it's
man.
Not even that. It's the fact that you were able to not only sign, well, let's call it like it is, identify and evaluate a player of the stature of Ashton Jeanty, but then to build it for him was a big win. And then most importantly, to be able to retain him. And I think that's a huge piece. And I do have a mic drop today that I think is going to be a lot different than maybe any take that's been out there about Ashton Jeanty and how he stayed at Boise State amongst all of the potential money that was going to be thrown his way. I said it last year. I said that he's a 1 million plus guy in the market. And boy, did that prove to be true, Johnny. You guys thought I was nuts for saying that at the time, but he's a $1 million guy. And frankly, that's going to end up coming to fruition when he is drafted, I believe, in the first 15 picks in the NFL draft, which does not happen often at the running back position.
Yeah, I love seeing that just the college football world getting to see this kid. You know, he's been impressive to the media members since we saw him with his shirt off as a 17-year-old, and we were like, wait, that Jeanty kid? Wait, what? That dude's a beast. And then obviously true freshman, he looked great. Sophomore year, player of the year, and then this year he has a Barry Sanders type of season. I mean, that's just truly remarkable. Let's get to that mic drop, though, by the way, here on Ball Talk, Coach. Let's have some fun with it. Go for it. Mic drop here on Ball Talk.
Little Heisman Trophy edition of the Ball Talk mic drop presented by Western Collective and all their fantastic brews. Carrie Pruitt, my dog, my main man, always texting me and kind of asking me what I'm thinking about the games. But I really appreciate Carrie and your support of all things Bronco Nation news. And my mic drop's just unique. I think that the most important thing that happened for this Boise State 2024 run, and we've had the conversation, CFP or Heisman, which one's more important? Well, I think Ashton Jeanty proved that by wearing his Boise State gear to the Heisman Trophy, is that the CFP has and always has been the most important thing and the most important marker for this university. But Ashton Jeanty is so worthy of being talked about over and over and over. And I think the most important piece of this 2024 CFP run, it happened just about a year ago. About the time, maybe a year and some change, about the time when Ashton Jeanty had been getting, I'm sure, DMs and his agent, his NIL collective people, his high school coaches getting blown up by representatives from SEC and most likely Big Ten schools that were willing to throw a copious amount of money in the direction of Ashton Jeanty. And a lot of credit, and certainly it seems like to me almost all of the credit for all this has gone to Spencer Danielson and any NIL collective efforts that were thrown in the direction of Ashton Jeanty to make it a worthwhile reason to stay in Boise, Idaho, and Spencer Danielson. But I'm gonna tell you this: I've lived inside of football buildings for the last 40 some odd years of my life, including my dad. And one of the most underrated aspects of Ashton Jeanty staying at Boise State, and not enough people are talking about this name. It's the person that has been in the position room with him for 2 consecutive years. And I think today is a day where we, as a Bronco family, as a Bronco nation, we should honor James Montgomery. This was his running back coach in the 2023 season. You spend 90+% of your time as it relates to the coaching staff with your position coach. And that is the relationship that has the deepest talons sunk in to the equity that might lead to staying or leaving. James Montgomery has been behind the scenes. He hasn't been out, glazing himself. He's not out there, self-promoting. So I'm going to do his job for him. I don't know James Montgomery. I don't think I've ever actually met him in person, but I will say this: when you're able to keep a player like this around in a program, and then not only do that, get him to the dance in 2024, but then the most important job of a running back coach, and I've been a running back coach for 2 years with a similar, not nowhere near as special player in Stephon Taylor, where he was our offense. we're talking 2,000 yards, kind of scratching the surface, that type of back. There is a tremendous burden placed on the running back coach to properly manage the physical nature of his position group. And Ashton Jeanty did so much of the work, but James Montgomery did I'd say an amazing job of managing the emotions, the mental side and the physical side of the rotation of the running back position. And I know it wasn't much, but you know how much you can give this player. And James Montgomery knew exactly what he had in his running back. And so for me today, on this amazing day of a Heisman Trophy ceremony, where we're going to see a ton of credit given to the player himself, and he deserves all of it, every bit of it, and then some. We're going to see a ton of credit given to Spencer Danielson, and he deserves it, and then some. But the guy to me that's not going to be talked about nearly enough is James Montgomery. And for me, as a former coach, a Boise State alum, and a Boise State coach of the past, I give you, James Montgomery, a ton of credit. And today, for me, is a day that I'm gonna think about all that you did for this young man and what you did for this program by keeping this amazing player around. So, James Montgomery, happy Heisman Trophy Day to you as well. And that's my mic drop.
Bronco Nation News is presented by RowPaint.com, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, by Lithia Ford, The Blue and Orange Store, Western Collective, by Jackson's, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Bauscher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, by Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and by Timberstone Golf Course.
All right, welcome back, Ball Talk. Coach, let's get gut feelings out of the way. And then I want to pick your brain a little bit about SMU in Penn State on this Ball Talk. I don't know how much more Heisman we can get. I mean, we all love the kid. We all hope he wins it. It would be a magnificent moment for the state of Idaho. Seriously, if there's a Heisman winner here and everything that's going to come with it. What's the gut feeling of longtime coach, alum, former coach, former quarterback here, Mike Sanford, on Ashton Jeanty and the Heisman? What's your gut telling you?
My heart and my own mind that has been shaped and formed by my own journey is voting for Ashton Jeanty. What he did after contact, knowing the story and following it closely, which I'd say 99% of the voters weren't as intimately following this journey of Ashton Jeanty, but knowing what he did with only 2 of his original 5 offensive line starters playing a majority of the season, those stats in terms of the yards after contact, they've meant so much to this football team to be in the position where you are. Indeed, you're 12-1 and heading to the college football playoff as the number 3 seed with the first round bye. And that's largely on the legs and body of Ashton Jeanty and the mentality of who he is. Now there's plenty of other credit to go around. Maddox Madsen's performed in critical moments for this football team. We can talk about Malachi Nelson a bit later and just about that, the ramifications of that. But I think that my logic and my just following of the national narrative, I do believe that upset, whatever you want to call it, it's an award, guys. You're not out there physically doing it on a battlefield, but it would be to me a shocker if Travis Hunter is not named the Heisman Trophy winner. And for me, when I saw the Biletnikoff Award go to Travis Hunter, and there's a lot of conversation of whether that was deserved or not. I went to 4 games this year, and I watched Travis Hunter equally. I watched Tedero McMillan, a guy that I think is going to be a great pro, and certainly watched Nick Nash, who had a monster year statistically.
Yep.
Travis Hunter deserved the Biletnikoff Award, and you can get in the comments and say I'm an idiot. I've watched this player. I've watched his impact on the team.
What about the Bednarik? Is he the best defensive player in America?
Well, they voted on it. They voted. That's how the vote. I mean, So what that tells me is there's a lot of crossover voters in a lot of these awards. And that to me is where my logic is telling me that Travis Hunter, when you combine a Bednarik Award and a Biletnikoff Award, now you're talking uncharted territory. And anybody that said that, Champ Bailey did the same thing and Charles Woodson did the same thing, you obviously weren't alive or really following college football to see how much those 2 players really played on the offensive side of the ball and how impactful they were on the offensive side, from a scheme standpoint. And then defensively eliminating his side of the field, and teams that did test, Travis Hunter, they got to learn his ball skills. I think that the the combination of the Blutkoff and Bednarik voters putting Travis Hunter in that position, that's historic, man. And what Ashton Jeanty's doing right now is absolutely historic as well. It's an unfortunate nature of the two of them that I think are incredibly special unicorn type players in their generation. I think that's the only unfortunate nature of maybe the timing of this year being the year where Ashton Jeanty goes absolutely off.
It's been confirmed, I believe, Spencer Danielson here on BNN, Malachi Nelson's not going to move forward with the team, I believe, Coach. That's correct. Hopefully I'm not saying anything that wasn't mentioned, but I think Malachi's gone. That I'm not so much there, but Max Cutforth will be your QB2 for the Fiesta Bowl. And this is just kind of one of the casualties of war, Coach, with the college football, so to speak, where sometimes this stuff gets in the way and the seasons run into each other. I mean, I would imagine Malachi would have loved to stay and be a part of this ride, but he can't wait and not get into the portal. Your thoughts on just, I guess, the Malachi Nelson situation and where it is right now?
Well, Malachi Nelson's a guy that I'm yet to meet. I haven't spent any time with him, so I don't have a lot of information just with regards to personality. Most everything that I've heard in terms of his ability, his overall presence is all second and third hand information. So I don't know everything that went into it, but the bottom line in the transfer portal era, and this is a big buyer beware to Boise State fans. I bit my tongue. I'll be very candid because I didn't want to be the guy that was raining on the parade when Malachi Nelson arrived in Boise, and there was a greeting party there at the airport. And if you were there, awesome. That's great. That's an amazing support for your university, and that's what makes Boise State really special. But on the flip side, most of these transfers and star rankings and things along those lines, nobody in this world, and I talk to college football coaches across the nation about the quarterback in the transfer portal. And right now at the high levels, at the levels where you are trying to compete for, frankly, a CFP position in 2025, nobody cares about your high school star rating. People care about what you've done on a college football field. And that's why you see Cam Ward coming out of Incarnate Word. You're watching the game right now. I had it on earlier. South Dakota State versus Incarnate Word. You have guys like Zach Calzada who might be hot in the portal after they're done with their FCS year. People care more about your college film and what you do in your college tape because that's the best indication of what you are as a college football player. And so I don't know that the market will be massive for Malachi Nelson, where Malachi Nelson, if I were advising him, he needs to find a place that is extremely quarterback needy, and wherever it is, go get your best opportunity where you are needed to start now. And that was not going to be the case at Boise State. And I didn't even know it was the case in going into the 2024 year. When everybody said, anoint Malachi Nelson as your starting quarterback, I said, wait a minute. Did you guys see that Mad Dog was what he did last year, what he did to stabilize the ship at times? Maddox Madsen had field credibility. And that's an important two-word phrase, field credibility on a college football field. And so that'd be my advice to Malachi Nelson is find a place that absolutely needs quarterbacks. If it's like Cam Ward and you got to go to a level, say Incarnate Word or in that conversation, go to a place where you can go shine and you feel comfortable. And so that's going to be interesting for Malachi Nelson. Does he end up at UCF? I saw, awesome opportunity for Steve Cooper, dude that I also have not met,
Love
but
that
really,
dude.
Respect his
He's
work
awesome.
a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're gonna miss Coop.
Yeah, and is there a relationship there? I mean, one thing about Steve Cooper is he knows the ins and outs from being an offensive analyst of the quarterback position. He knows the ins and outs of Malachi Nelson. So is UCF going to be a place?
Hey, Coach.
What's that?
I just got a text from Jason Eck.
Oh, New Mexico.
It's over. He's going to Albuquerque.
Breaking news, man. Breaking news right here.
I lost my boy, dude. 3 years of the playoffs, came there, totally flipped it. Now I have to buy New Mexico gear. What am I going to move to Albuquerque? Oh my God. Yeah. Jason Eck's going to New Mexico.
Well, you got some breaking news right there.
What do you know about the New Mexico gig?
Well, I was so impressed.
City.
It's a tough job, man. I was so impressed with what Bronco Mendenhall did. And I think the reason that he left that job. And what I would say I kind of heard through the grapevine, I'd never heard it from anybody directly associated with Bronco, or, Jason Beck, who's the offensive coordinator there last year, now the offensive coordinator with his superstar quarterback, Devin Dampier, is going to be at Utah, both of them. I just heard that this new revenue sharing model that's going to be dropping here in about August of 2025. A lot of schools in that New Mexico vein have decisions to make with regards to, are they going to use that $22 million or whatever it may be? Are they going to share that revenue across athletic departments? A lot of these athletic departments just flat out can't afford, that deficiency that you would have. I mean, most athletic departments, they operate in the red as it is. And so I think that there was not the model in place maybe at New Mexico to go forward. And one thing I know that Jason Eck will do, he'll create an insane culture of toughness. They play really good physical brand of football, and he'll win in the FCS transfer market, which I think is a very important market to know very well. Because you'll give opportunities to players in the FCS market that were stars on the field with that field credibility, and maybe up their game just a bit at New Mexico and be able to compete for Mountain West.
Wow. Yep. Jason Eck going to New Mexico. I think New Mexico plays Boise State next year. I think it's even on the blue, but that'll be a fun game, Coach. Have you ever coached in Beaver Stadium, State College, Pennsylvania? Like, if you're SMU, I mean, that's a pretty decent environment. And Boise State fan has this sweet little gem. They just get to watch this game, put their hand behind their head, kick back, and say, whoa, okay, we're playing the winner here, and just watch them sweat it out. Well, how do you think that's going to go? Feels to me like that environment is a massive advantage for Penn State. I wanted your thoughts. Have you coached there?
I have not. So my dad coached against Penn State, but it was in the Meadowlands, the old Meadowlands in the early 1990s. Keyjana Carter, I believe, a little Kerry Collins, if I'm not mistaken. And it was USC versus Penn State at the Meadowlands.
1999, I believe. LeVar Arrington?
No, this is early, like 93, 94. So it was probably, it was maybe before that era of Penn State football. But I do remember, it was a USC at the Meadowlands. I went as a coach's kid. It was the old Kickoff Classic. Do you remember that? There used to be like one or two games that were played in week 0, and now it's like the entire slate is playing week 0, and there's no special name for it. It was like a preseason bowl game, the Kickoff Classic. And, Penn State, their fan base, they will overwhelm any type of stadium. They got a very loyal following. Penn State's the preeminent brand in the entire Eastern Seaboard for football, for college football. And it's just very apparent that they have an incredibly loyal and very strong fan base and following that will travel wherever. Strangely as it sounds, SMU, once they made the change from Preston Stone at quarterback to Jennings, their season really kind of took off. They started out very slowly. I've had a hard time unseeing the games that I watched against Nevada, even though that game was at Nevada. And then the game I watched against BYU, which BYU won in SMU at, I think it's Ford Stadium, Gerald Ford Stadium, if I'm not mistaken. I think that you want to play Penn State. It sounds crazy. I think Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl, the history, it carries, it travels. I felt it in 2014, and I know you were a lot closer, in terms of the 2011 Fiesta Bowl in terms of years. But I feel like you want the biggest brand. And then the biggest one for me is that Penn State right now just doesn't have a lot of synergy with throwing to their wide receivers. And for whatever reason, that's been a deficiency. It's been a deficiency of the Boise State secondary that I think got shored up against UNLV. It looked very good. I was really excited about, the combination of how these DBs played the football in the air. But Penn State, they major in the Tyler Warren special. I think that this Boise State defense, is built to stop that style of football, maybe more than I do with SMU in a wide open, 5-6 different receivers that can go up and high point of football. And then Jennings, who's a really athletic, extend play type player. That's been a deficiency for Boise State. I'd love to see Drew Aller, even though he can run and he is a physical runner and he's a tough guy, but I would rather see a more of a traditional approach to football against this defense for Boise State. And then I just think whoever you line up against Ashton Jeanty, I think he's going to go do what he does. And I don't think it's an accident.
Healthy offensive line too. All 5 units, all 5 players, original unit, fully healthy, ready to go. Especially maybe there's a chip for not winning the Heisman, and it's one of those things. He needs 131 for Barry, so they want to make sure they get that. But you make a great point. Boise State styles make fights, right?
Yep.
Boise
100%.
State might be better equipped to beat Penn State more in a knockout phone booth than a track meet that SMU wants to do. And Drew Aller, it feels like every time he has to have the moment, he doesn't have the moment. Every time James Franklin puts it in his hands and says, go win us this game, whether it's the Ohio State game or the Michigan game, games that they struggle, Iowa game, feels like Drew Aller hasn't had that signature moment. Very hyped kid and transferred, and a lot of people like him, but feels like he's not the scariest quarterback you'd face in this tournament. I agree with you on that too. I give Boise State more than a puncher's chance against Penn State or SMU. I think that's going to be a ball game.
Yeah, I think it'd be also just the magnitude of the event. I think actually favors Boise State against Penn State. The chip on the shoulder gets bigger as the brand gets bigger.
Okay.
I felt that even in 2014. You could say Arizona doesn't have a massive brand, but at the time, I mean, this is a team that beat Oregon, who was or took Oregon to the final whistle, if I'm not mistaken, up at Autzen. And then Rich Rodriguez was your head coach, and you're going in and playing in Arizona's first Fiesta Bowl in like 30, 40 years. And you just love that us against the world mentality. That's what Boise State's built on. And
in
it's
their backyard too.
Yes.
I mean,
and now you have Penn State, one of the top 5, top 10 brands in college football. Mm-hmm. And it's the Boise State brand is like us against the world, us against the establishment. What's more freaking punk rock than Boise State? I love it. That's what I live for.
What do you know about James Franklin?
Yeah. Okay. He's been a head coach at Penn State for a very long time. Yeah. He's had a pretty good career record. His record against top 5 teams is not very good. I've had interactions with James Franklin personally that were really positive. James Franklin, head football coach at Penn State.
Why'd you sign up to play at Boise State? I mean, was it the only offer? Was it one of those deals? Did they sell you on something? Like, why did you decide to play college football at BSU?
Well, my first offer came from the University of Idaho. And that was my very first offer.
Is it really?
It was my first offer.
Do you have that letter?
No, I didn't know.
You can find that. I would frame it and hang it on my wall.
My mom might have it. Then I had Nevada, and then I had Boise State, and then actually on signing day, we got old landline days. I got some random calls early from Fresno State and Utah, and so there was some last second panic. But for me, what did it is Utah State also offered me. And I went on an official visit to Utah State the week before I went to Boise State on an official visit. But for me at the time, Johnny, and this is a different era of college football. I would say that my fairly low expectations of my official visit to Boise State were completely blown out of the water because I saw a community, a city, and a program from having been around college football my whole life. I looked at my dad. I'm like, this place is going to be big time. And my dad's like, you are so right. This place has all the makings of a program that's going to explode. And sure enough, it did. So I could say I had a little bit of, forward thinking or some sorcery, crystal ball vibes. But I could just see it. The growth potential of Boise as a community and the program was just so incredibly strong. And I didn't go. The only thing a Southern Californian in 1999 would have known about Boise, Idaho is potatoes. Truly, that was it. I mean, it wasn't the hot city where all the .comers and techies and all the Californians trying to get away from their crazy state. Back then, it was a local community that was known for potatoes. But then I get there and I'm like, this place is freaking awesome. And that's why I chose Boise State. And then I would say that the chip on the shoulder aspect of my journey, it started to develop in terms of being in the locker room, the messages that were being conveyed to us by Jeff Pittman, a Boise State alum that hated the DAV, the dog ass Vandals. Jeff Pittman of Idaho State strength coaching fame now loved the result of last night's Idaho, tail kicking 52-19 at the hands of Big Sky foe, Montana State. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
God, man, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I love hearing those stories of all those players and why you guys commit and all that great stuff. But heck yeah, man. Where are you watching the Heisman ceremony? Who are you watching it with?
Just at home, man. We're just with the fam. We've been watching all the coverage on ESPN, all the interviews. You could tell that every one of these Heisman candidates are, on the morning Sports Center. I watched all 4 of them get interviewed, and you can tell they've just been through the ringer in terms of media and photo shoots and all the different things. They're just like great weekend, but I'm sure it's a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I'm going to watch it myself as well. And this town's going to explode either way, Coach, whether they win or whether they lose on this thing.
Can I just say this right now? And I've addressed this on Ball Talk quite often is I'm very excited for today. And really it's everything's going to kind of die down over the next 2 days because I'm working in Colorado in the media. I'm a former coach at the University of Colorado. I have personally a lot of appreciation and respect for Travis Hunter. He is one of the few bona fide, undisputed 5-star, 99.999 recruiting grade players that's actually panned out in college football. So many of these guys just either go by the wayside or they're just not what they were advertised to be. I do have a lot of love for Travis Hunter as a football player and as a person, and I've gotten to know him, through the media lens, not personally, probably a little bit more intimately than a lot of people in Boise, Idaho. And then conversely, I have a ton of love and admiration for my favorite Boise State Bronco of all time, and that's Ashton Jeanty. And so anytime I'm sitting there on the stupid X machine and I see the takes from both sides that are so extreme and they're all aimed to diminish the quality of the player on the opposite side of the argument, I get kind of like, the heebie-jeebies. I get cringy. I get like, this is disgusting. Do what you got to do. I'm not going to tell a fan how to fan. You do your thing. But I'm so excited for this crap to be over because these are 2 incredibly special football players. And I personally, and for me and my household, we won't stand for any shade towards either one of these players because they're both unicorns in games of college football. I'm rooting for Ashton Jeanty to win the award tonight.
Who are Gunnar and Griffin and Peyton rooting for? Do they have a preference? I mean, they live right outside of Boulder. Travis Hunter's there every day.
I'll give you the breakdown. And you got to remember, I mean, Gunner's never been to Boise, Idaho. I mean, he was born at St. Luke's or St. Al's. I can't remember whichever one is closer to downtown. And then we moved, a couple months later. So he hasn't been back to Boise, Idaho, nor has Peyton, nor has Griffin. Griffin wasn't even born. Anne Marie is like, I mean, she's kind of like me, but she absolutely loves both of these dudes. Like she watches the interviews and just is just beaming with a smile by how, just how classy these dudes are, having gotten to know them a little bit from our local media and then from our Boise, experience in the media. I'd say Griffin and Gunner, they go to elementary school in the state of Colorado. I will say that Griffin Sanford, 8-year-old, he wears his Boise State jersey. Unfortunately, it's hard to find an authentic jersey with the number 2 on it. So it's like a number 1 jersey, but he's got a black one, he's got a blue one, and he wears it with his football pads on, at recess at his school. So I'd say he is team.
He puts pads on to play recess football.
Yeah, he's a sicko, man. He's a football
shoulder
guy,
pads and
bona fide football
on
guy.
Recess. Yeah. He gears up.
Oh, he gears up, man. He brings his pads in his backpack. He's got football pants with pads inside of him as well. He hasn't been suspended from school, but let's just say that I think Griffin Sanford was a bit of suspect number 1 that was guilty of recess and lunch football getting banned from the elementary school he goes to. But I would say that Griffin would be on team Jeanty. Gunner, on the other hand, he's 10 years old. There's a lot of, they both asked me if I'd buy them Travis Hunter jerseys. And I went to Dick's Sporting Goods here in Colorado, look for them. And once again, I couldn't find any form of authentic jersey because it's all these NIL knockoff jerseys. And I'm just not a knockoff jersey guy. I can't do it.
You're trying to find an authentic Travis Hunter and that you can't find one.
I mean, they're sold out everywhere. They're this, that, and the other thing. But yeah, I think that the boys are really torn, man. And then Peyton, I think she's all Boise State. I think she lived there. She remembered it. So yeah, that's where the family kind of divides.
Nice. Well, I hope Ashton Jeanty does win it, but I'm thinking it's going to be Travis Hunter. But like I said at the beginning of the show, if you're just joining us, this will be here. Rewind it. I think Jeanty absolutely won the weekend. He won the experience. I think he won the street cred throughout college football. But it's going to be fun to see Boise State also in the Fiesta Bowl, Coach. I don't know when we're coming back for ball talk. If it's next week,
hey, in terms of in terms of the closeness of this race, I want to make this point really clear. Is I do a lot of work for VSiN, which is it's based out of Las Vegas. It's in the Circa. It's the studio is in the Circa Sports Book. I have good friends that are in that help me understand the numbers sometimes. And what I would say is that the numbers are really based off the market. And there has been so much money on Travis Hunter at so many different times of the year that Vegas has to protect its investments. And that's why I think the numbers are so egregious, in terms of us, plus 8,000, 20,000 at some point.
Part of it. Absolutely part of it. They need more money bet on Jeanty. It's absolutely part of it.
Yes, they need to move the market. But what I've been told is that those the massive chasm that exists in terms of the odds is based more off the money coming in, which a lot of people do say follow the money. I think that this Heisman Trophy win, I think it's the final tally is going to be remarkably close. That's my prediction.
Like how close? We'll keep them a couple. I don't have anywhere to go.
What is it? 900. It's like 986 total votes. Yeah. Is that right? It's like in that. It's just south of 1,000.
1, 2, and 3, I believe. Or I don't know if you vote for more than that. I think you vote first, second, third. I really don't know how it goes. But.
But in terms of voters, right? I think it's just south of 1,000.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to see. You might end up seeing after the Big Ten championship weekend, you could see, Dylan Gabriel a little bit more involved in this race than you might have thought before, because he is the quarterback for the only unblemished team in college football. I think Ashton Jeanty had an exclamation point performance against, in his championship weekend, which I think may have narrowed the gap just a little bit between he and Travis Hunter. I think it's going to be, it's not going to come down necessarily to a matter of like individual, like under 10 votes, but the percentages are going to be a lot closer than I think Las Vegas numbers would indicate. And I think that's because they're protecting their the house money.
How about this? Who gets third? If you had to put money on it,
it's Gabriel, for sure.
You don't think there's more voters maybe down south that would lean towards Cam Ward?
I don't. I think the disappointing nature of their season, fizzling out at the end. I think
the steadiness of Gabriel all year.
And frankly, like, let's just talk about Dylan Gabriel. He did something that Bo Nix wasn't able to do at Oregon, and that's go through the season undefeated. And you could say that Bo Nix's time frame of being the quarterback at Oregon happened to align with Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr. doing incredible things with a great Washington roster. But, Dylan Gabriel was able to steady the ship to a 13-0 run for the Oregon Ducks. And right now, they're the odds-on favorite in my eyes to be the college football playoff champion.
That's a whole nother thing. Like, if we're filling out the bracket here, like, so right now, I mean, you think if you had to pick one team, and this is what I love about this season, there's not Joe Burrow 2018 LSU out there. Didn't you coach against that team?
I did. Utah State at Death Valley. It was not a fun day at the office.
So you know what I'm talking about. That was an NFL team. I don't know if there is that this year, which has some intrigue why we might be able to see like a team like Boise State or even a team like SMU win two games in this tournament. If SMU gets past Penn State, they're feeling pretty damn good about being able to beat Boise. You would say right now, Oregon, from what you've seen, these 12 teams, Oregon would have the best chance to win it. I still worry about them tussling with an SEC front seven, man.
I could agree with that. You know, you could look at like Texas's defensive front seven is legit. Georgia's front seven is legit. Their path is also not ideal. That's the one thing about this current seeding is that the bracket that Oregon drew as the clear one seed might be more difficult than, say, Boise State's bracket, which is
Tennessee,
wild.
They play the winner of Tennessee,
Ohio State.
A monster matchup regardless. Yeah.
But, you know, I think that that Oregon is the team that I've seen. This is a weird year, and I think the portal and even the NIL space has really taken away the dominant 4 to 6 teams in college football because a lot of their depth pieces are getting sucked up by other programs, and then those depth pieces turn into great football players that used to be 5 and 4-star, 5-star talent that was just stashed at, say, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma. You know, we're talking more 10 years ago than the current landscape. I think that Oregon is the team in a year where there are teams that everybody has some form of wart. I think that Oregon has the fewest amount of warts, and they just keep finding ways to win. And my personal belief that Dan Lanning and one of his disciples, which would be Kenny Dillingham, Dan Lanning, and I think that tree is doing the best job right now of utilizing their resources intelligently and getting the best roster.
Am I correct when I say the next 25 years of college football, no program is as well equipped as the University of Oregon?
Yeah, I mean, they have the best model. They have an owner, right? This is an NFL model, and they have the best owner in sports right now, and that's Phil Knight.
Yes, right.
I mean,
that's
it is
so
what it
true.
is. But here's the thing: is that there's a lot of teams like Oklahoma State. You know, you can say this, that, and the other thing. Oklahoma State has the legacy money of T. Boone Pickens, and they had everything I heard in the Big 12 conference. Oklahoma State might have had the deepest war chest in the NIL, but that doesn't mean that you automatically get it right. They got it wrong. They got it wrong to the tune of an 0-9 conference record. And so, yes, it's about having the resources and then properly allocating those resources and building the most comprehensive roster. And right now, Oregon is the best at it currently in the business.
Yeah. What do you give, like, if not Oregon? I mean, is there another team, Georgia? What do you think of Texas and Sark? They're in the 5-12, correct? No.
I love Texas. I love their defense. I love their front. I love what they've invested their resources in. But until they show me any form of consistent elite quarterback play in big games, I'm not going to be a believer. I'm not a buyer. I mean, Johnny, the National College Football world was telling us that the Heisman Trophy was going to come down to Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers. This ended up being, and I was very anti that narrative. I'm like, have you guys really watched Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck play against good teams? Like, these guys they're not top 10 NFL draft picks. I'm sorry. And they don't look like the athlete and the overall second play nature of quarterback play that you see in the NFL outside of Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. The other 30 teams or so, they play a style of football that the quarterback makes things happen with the second play. I think this about Georgia, to me, it has the best roster build. And I actually think Georgia might end up getting a nice little uptick with some more savvy, tough, gutty, and consistent quarterback play from Gunnar Stockton. I think that Georgia's might be the sneaky team because they have great players everywhere.
What do you give Clemson a chance to survive and advance in this thing? Press the wrong button there, Coach. Dabo.
I was trying to hit my dump button there so that my ice cubes didn't ring, and I ended up hitting my little sassy music.
I like
button.
it. Yeah, I heard it, man. Let's just get a couple more of these games, and we'll get everybody out of here and get excited for the Heisman Trophy. I mentioned Clemson, Texas. I wanted to go. What was the other one, Coach? Where am I at? Oh yeah, Notre Dame at Indiana. Indiana at Notre Dame. That's special for Notre Dame.
It's going to be a really good. I think that's the game in the first round I'm most excited to watch, and
Really?
might come from a bias. I think Indiana and I think Curtis Rourke, the quarterback, that they can score, and Notre Dame's had a very cush path to get to this spot. I think Indiana is also had a cush. I mean, they've had they drew the best Big Ten schedule, maybe by far of anybody in the Big Ten for a team that was well equipped. The numbers on Indiana that came out this week in terms of their NIL collective and how much they invested in that roster, it starts to add up because that's a good looking football team that you don't beat Big Ten teams by 25, 35 points. You don't go and destroy Nebraska the way they did that also has good players. If you don't have really talented top end talent, Indiana and Notre Dame, I think is going to be one of the closest and most dramatic games of the week one opening round. Yeah. And I do think if we're looking, I do think the home and away nature of this is going to matter. And where I think it's going to matter the most is going to be at Penn State in their own building, white out, most likely under the lights. I don't know if they've announced the time for it yet. I think that SMU's game. I think SMU is going to struggle with that environment, to be very honest.
I think that's going to be a really tough environment. No, the Friday night game, coach, is Indiana at Notre Dame, Friday, December 20th. And then, dude, a week from today? Are you kidding me? SMU at Penn State, Clemson at Texas, and the nightcap, Tennessee in the shoe. That's what we're getting next weekend? I'm sorry, I love the NFL more than anybody, but look out, NFL, because college football is going to own December with this tournament and the news and the conversation and the Heisman. It's like you're in the dog days of the NFL right now. And typically that's not the case, but college football scored big. If you ask me with this tournament, I'm following college more than the NFL right now. And I'm more of an NFL fan than college.
You do, Johnny, to be candid, you live in a place where college football, the lights of college football are shining so bright on the community that you're fortunate to represent the media. Being here in Denver, last weekend was a really slow weekend. 6 of the top teams in the NFL, a bunch of them had buys. It was a really boring weekend slate of football. There were a lot of bad matchups. Have you looked at the slate on Sunday? There are some massive playoff ramifications across the board in the NFL. I think it's great for football in general because you get your tune up on, Friday and Saturday of college football, and then the NFL slate's coming down all these conference, in divisional matchups and playoff seeding. The NFL is never going to struggle for viewership, man. I've learned that it is king in sport. I learned that the hard way doing Denver radio a year ago. I started out and I'm all fired up about the Nuggets and the Avs, and that's all I want to talk about. I'm a football guy that's like, man, I just caught the fire of the Nuggets and the Avalanche and getting close to a postseason. And then my program director, didn't think he was going to have a conversation with an 18-year college football coach. He's like, hey, man, you got to talk a little bit more football.
Yeah.
Because it is king, man. It is king, brother. It is. In NFL football is what you butter your bread with in the media space, because that's where the inquiring minds are always dialing into. And what I love is that college football, man. I think when it was just the 4 teams, the bowl games with the portal and NIL, it felt like so many of the bowl games meant absolutely nothing. So you just got 2 games that really meant something in the month of December and into January. And now you're getting just a huge portion to be able to ingest and digest. And it's so good for overall the game of football.
Yeah. And winning a Rose Bowl now, you continue playing in most cases too, which I think opens up a whole nother door of, a playoff atmosphere, all that stuff, winning and advancing. I'll be honest, when Boise State won the Fiesta Bowl in 2006, I would have loved to see what they could have done another week. Could you imagine the ratings, the buzz for whoever Boise State would have played? It would have been somebody bigger like Urban Meyer's Florida or Pete Carroll's USC, that era. What was that? Charlie Whitehurst, Notre Dame, Brady Quinn. I would have loved to see, the world would have loved to see Boise State take that on. And now you're going to get that opportunity. The tournament suite and the 4-team tournament, you're right, Coach. Even when you were in another bowl, even if it was a big bowl, say the Rose Bowl, but it wasn't a part of the 4-team playoff, it didn't weigh as much, didn't matter as much to me. And the 12, do you think the 12 team tournament much better? I keep hearing 16 too is coming in a couple of years.
It would make a ton of sense to go to 16. I love the 12-team format. I think the way it was built was really, I thought it was ingenious in terms of building the viewership of conference championship weekend and putting a lot of stake into what you do in conference championship weekend, and then frankly not penalizing teams that lost in championship weekend. I think SMU getting into the dance as a team that only had one loss going into their conference championship weekend. I think not awarding the SEC for a bunch of mediocrity this year, I think that was good for the brand of college football. Now, I think the SEC and the big money folks in probably the TV industry, they're probably going to have some words about it. And I do think we'll see a restructured at least 12-team playoff in 2026. The thing I think is going to happen is the top three. I think you're going to get 3 of the top 4 seeds maybe in 2026 are going to go to the highest rated conference champion. And then the 4 seed is going to be the next, the highest rated team, not in that top 4, if you will. So it would be able to get a second SEC team into a bye situation, which if they've played to that point, then they probably deserve it. Or a Big Ten team or Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame should, if they go 12-0 and run roughshod over a good schedule, I think they should have the ability to be at the dance. And let's just call it like it is. College football views itself that it's a power 2 and the money reflects it. It's the Big Ten, it's the SEC. And then, hey, let everybody else fight for, that third spot, whether it's the Pac-12 in 2026.
I'm okay with that. Like, if it does stay like this, let those 2 have everything. We get it. You guys are the best, whatever. But just let us eat a little bit and let us have a chance to play you and beat you. In this case, like SMU, let us have a chance to go to this tournament over you. I mean, I just didn't think the committee was going to keep Bama out at SMU's expense. SMU lost their conference championship. That to me was easy to say, well, you had your chance. You could have played your way in. You didn't. Here comes the Bama. Here, Roll Tide. But they didn't. And I thought the committee showed a lot of guts doing that, saying we value this resume better than that resume, and here's why. But I said this from the drop of this tournament. I said, ooh, you're giving the bye weeks to 4 conference champions. I don't know, because there's so many years that the top 4 in America, 3 of those teams are in the SEC. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. If you're going to continue with bye weeks, it's like the NCAA tournament. You qualify for the tournament. Once you get all the qualifiers, then you seed. You don't have predetermined seeds type of thing. So I think they'll go in that direction a little bit. Yeah,
the thing that would have been really interesting, and I would have loved to have seen this proposed, we'll call it the Sanford model, because I came up with it. I don't know if probably a million people have said it, so it's not like it's necessarily original thought. But if I was to look at this season, if you went with top 3 conference champions, top 3 highest rated conference champions by the College Football Playoff Committee, gets an automatic bye. Mm-hmm. And then the 4th team is essentially it's an at-large best ranked team. I believe the best team in there would have been Notre Dame. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, they have to have a weird Notre Dame clause, I think, because they all want Notre Dame in this tournament. I think if Notre Dame goes 10-2 just about every year, they're going to find a spot for them in this thing.
Well, but I'm saying this year with the 11-1 Notre Dame, didn't take an L in the conference championship. So if we look at, let's just say Notre Dame, sorry, I'm trying to pull this up here on my screen. So Notre Dame,
real quick. Oh,
yeah.
Say Notre Dame beat, I don't know, Northern Illinois. They'd be 12-0, and they'd probably be ranked number 2, and they'd have to be on the 5 line because they weren't a conference champion. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Well, that would be that's where I think that's a real thing, because it did matter. So the final ranking, so not the seedings, they're 2 different things, 2 different conversations, as we learned. I think, okay, so I guess it was Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Notre Dame 3, Penn State 4, Texas 5, Ohio State 6. So in the current model, you would have, if the Sanford model of the CFP The 1 seed would be Oregon, 2 seed would be Georgia as conference champions of the CFP, and the highest rated, they would be 1 and 2 seed. I think that the remaining 2 seeds should go to highest rated conference champion, but then compare the ranking in terms of seeding. I think Notre Dame would be a 3 seed. And then let's just call it like it is. If the committee was fighting over 1 remaining spot for Big 12 champion Arizona State as a bye and Boise State as a 12-1 team, what do you think that the committee would have done if there was 1 remaining? What do you think they would have done?
It's a good question. I don't know. Yeah.
Because you could point, certainly, like logically, you could jump in here and point to the fact that yes, Boise State ended up rated higher and the 3 seed over 4 seed Arizona State. Well, you really didn't have a controversial decision to make, and the path of least resistance was to keep Boise State as 3 and Arizona State is 4. You still got your Big 12 or ACC, first round bye. You still kind of are appeasing, the non-group of or the non-power 2 remaining power 4 conferences. But if rubber had met the road, man, and you looked at Arizona State's stretch down, how they were playing at the end and then dominating in their conference championship.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say the tinfoil hat in me would say that the CFP committee would have put Arizona State as the 4 seed. I do.
And Boise State would have been on the 11 or 12 line. Yeah.
Yep. That's what I think would have happened. Now that's just a theory, tinfoil hat. I got it going, but I think it all worked out in the end. I think the CFP committee was probably glad it worked out the way it did.
Dang, man, Boise's gonna blow if this kid wins the Heisman. Can you imagine just this town? This program, you've lived it.
Fireworks,
like having a Heisman over there in the Blaemire next to other stuff. I mean, the Maxwell,
unbelievable,
right? At this program, I mean, that thing would be. I mean, and not that CU family that wouldn't love it just as much. I don't want to take anything away, but man, there's not a program that would be more appreciative, than this fan base if they can get Jeanty that Heisman. But we'll see what happens, man. Enjoy watching it with your family, Coach.
Yeah, you too, man. Enjoy it. And Bronco Nation, just my final thought is enjoy the day, celebrate the day, fan how you want to fan, throw the shade that you want to throw shade, and just realize that I'll be able to ingest a lot of your guys' Twitter takes here just about how awful Travis Hunter is as a player and as a human being, because I have been around him now for the last 2 years, and he's a spectacular player and human being as well. He's going to be a great pro, and so Ashton Jeanty will be too. Those 2 guys they are 2 of 2, and it ain't even close.